Dear participants of the Nuremberg Moot Court 2021, dear friends, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you all. My name is Christoph Safferling, and I'm a professor of criminal law and international law at the Friedrich-Alexander-Universität Erlangen-Nürnberg, and as such, one of the organizers of this Moot Court event. In 2013, we started the Moot Court in Nuremberg. At first, we had only 4 teams, one from the University of Marburg, one from Erlangen-Universität, and 2 from Creighton Law School, who usually have a summer school in July in Nuremberg. As presiding judge, Hans-Peter Kaul, the first German judge of the ICC, sat in courtroom 600. The Memoriam Nuremberg trials was nearly 3 years old then, and the International Nuremberg Principles Academy, now the cooperation partner in organizing this Moot Court with the Friedrich-Alexander-Universität, wasn't even founded. Much to our surprise, the idea of having a Moot Court in this historic courtroom in Nuremberg soared. In 2019, more than 50 teams from all 5 continents of the world came to Nuremberg to present their cases. In 2020, we introduced preliminary written rounds, and we're ready to welcome again some 250 students to Nuremberg when COVID-19 suddenly stopped all our plans. And we had to end the Nuremberg Moot Court 2020 with the written rounds only. However, again with 4 teams, we started a little pilot project on how to manage a virtual competition. It felt a little like back in 2013. Thanks to the International Nuremberg Principles Academy and to Natacha Bracq, as well as Hrdličková from International Criminal Law Research Unit at FAU, we could start planning a pandemic-conform competition this year, including oral Moot Court rounds. I'm also very grateful to Philipp Gräbke, who helped to organize this event as a true cooperation between FAU and the International Nuremberg Principles Academy. Now we had this year 99 teams participating in the written round. Today, for the orals, we have 45 teams consisting of 230 team members plus their 45 coaches. The teams come from all over the world, from Africa, the Americas, Asia, Australia, Europe, many from Eastern European states. And they will be judged by 45 judges, more than 45 judges, who also come from every corner of the world. Nuremberg in Germany isn't a place like any other place. Its long history as one of the main capitals of medieval Germany, its great craftsmanship, its world famous artists still show in today's view of the city with its churches, the castle, its places and museums. With that history, however, it was the perfect stage for the National Socialist Party in Germany that came to power in 1933, making Adolf Hitler the Führer of the German Reich. Images of the Nazi party rallies, one or the other of you might have seen. The grounds where these rallies were held are still visible today. The name Nuremberg is also found in the 1935 race laws, which were adopted by the Reichstag, at that time sitting in a special meeting in Nuremberg. That radical and discriminating laws were the base note and forerunners for the elimination of millions of Jews, homosexuals, Sinti and Roma, handicapped people and other minorities, which followed before and particularly during the aggressive war, which destroyed the lives of millions in Europe and of course in other parts of the world too. But the name Nuremberg does not only stand for perverse nationalism, horrifying discrimination, brutal violence and death. It also stands for an answer to these crimes and a way to halt state-sponsored criminals by legal means. After the German Wehrmacht was defeated in 1945, the preparation started to hold an international trial against the major German war criminals in an ordinary courtroom. This first international trial in history started in Nuremberg in November 1945, in the Palace of Justice, against 21 Germans. Most of them were found guilty for the crime of aggression, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. In this Moot Court competition, we also commemorate this first trial in history, this first international trial in history, and honor those men and women who started the idea of using reason and law to stand up against power and violence. Today, it is more important than ever that the Nuremberg trial reminds us that even in times when human rights are contested, in times of fake news and hate speech, the rule of law, human rights, and the seeking for justice needs to be supported by all of us. Even if you cannot be present here in Nuremberg to experience this spirit in the historic room, it should be in this very spirit of Nuremberg that we compete in this moot court competition over the next weeks. I wish the best of luck to all of you and success to all the teams. Of course, every participating team is a winning team. And keep in mind that reason and law can win over hate and violence if you carry on the lamp of Nuremberg and the idea of international criminal justice. Thanks again on my behalf to Natacha Bracq and the International Nuremberg Principles Academy and Philipp Gräbke for organizing the 2021 Nuremberg Moot Court. Dear friends, I would now like to turn over to Klaus Rackwitz. He is the director of the International Nuremberg Principles Academy, one of the organizers of this competition. He cannot be present today, but he has pre-recorded a little speech, which we can now hear.
Wherever you listen to us, welcome to the Nuremberg Moot Court Edition 2021. Unfortunately, only virtually in courtroom 600, which is my background here, and to which I welcome you all warmly. I congratulate all of you to making it to the oral rounds of this competition, despite all the difficulties that we face during these challenging times. And I admire your spirit and your enthusiasm to compete in this moot court, although it's only a virtual one. May the best team win, and I hope we are going to have interesting and challenging competitions. The case is not easy. It provides difficulties for each team and for each role, whatever it is, and I'm sure that you are all well prepared and well trained, and may the best team win. The Moot Court is an important event for the International Nuremberg Principles Academy, simply because the education of young practitioners, prosecutors, lawyers, victims representatives, defense and judges is in our core mandate. And it's a particular pleasure to have you all from all parts of the world in this competition and together with us here. And from that point of view, I'm proud that we have such a huge audience, that we have more teams than ever before, and I would again welcome you all warmly. Let me turn a second also to the second important group during this moot court, and this is the judges. I'm most grateful to all of you for your commitment and your preparedness to sit in the moot court and to judge the proceedings and to give feedback to our young colleagues, how they perform, how they litigate, where they have done excellent work and where there might be some room of improvement. Both is essential and both is important for the future practitioners in international, but also in criminal law in general. There is no better way than practicing law in a courtroom, and without fear and favor, as the prosecutor of the ICC would have said now, we do this in this moot court, and we look forward to all your contributions and your submissions. May the best team win. Again, a warm welcome to the Nuremberg Moot Court 2021, and enjoy the competition. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Director. Thank you for this welcome address on your behalf. By the way, if you are wondering, I'm not sitting in courtroom 600. I'm sitting in one of the festival places of my university. So to give a little bit of color and make you see different sides of the area of Nuremberg, Erlangen, I chose this virtual background here. And of course, this room is also empty, which is very sad, as all the rooms are empty at the moment due to the pandemic situation. But nevertheless, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you our speaker of honor today. This is a tradition that we have at the Nuremberg Moot Court, that for the opening ceremony, we always have a guest speaker. And this year, it's my great pleasure to introduce to you the President of the Special Tribunal for Lebanon, Judge Ivana Hrdličková. It's a real pleasure that this, the President of a tribunal is addressing this Moot Court group. And Judge Hrdličková has been a judge in her home state of the Czech Republic since 1999, since the 1990s, sorry, in both civil and criminal cases. And she holds a PhD in international law with a focus on the relationship between international and Islamic law from the law faculty of the famous Charles University in Prague. You might know that this is one of the oldest, or maybe even the oldest university in Europe north of the Alps. And it was founded by Emperor Charles IV in 1348, who, by the way, resided in the emperor castles of course, in Nuremberg. So there we have another connection between Nuremberg and our guest speaker today. So Ms. Hrdličková was appointed a judge of the appeals chamber of the Special Tribunals for Lebanon after a career in international law with different stages in November 2012, and she was elected president in February 2015. And since then, she has served as the president of this special tribunal. Thanks again for joining us here today, Ivana. I'm grateful that you take the time and address the students and the participating teams, and I hand over to you. Thank you very much and very welcome virtually here in Nuremberg.
Thank you very much, Professor Safferling, for your kind words. I'm grateful for the opportunity. Colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, all participants of the Nuremberg Academy Moot Court 2021, it's a great honor to address you a few words in this occasion, the opening ceremony, although virtually, and I'm very grateful for that. I would like to bring 3 points to your attention. First, the role of the Moot Courts, then the importance of International Nuremberg Principles Academy, and then the question of the future of international criminal law. Khalil Gibran said, knowledge and understanding are life faithful compassion who will never prove untrue to you. For knowledge is your crown and understanding your staff. And when they are with you, you can possess no greater treasures. And moot courts are about legal knowledge and understanding. And they are also about communication and presentation. The word moot itself, in its historical meaning, means an assembly held for debate, regular gathering of people having common interest. Being a judge for a long time myself, and currently serving as presiding appeals judge and president of one of the internationalized criminal courts, I can hardly see anything equally beneficial, equally powerful for students and young lawyers than the moot courts, where participants gather together to argue imaginary cases to practice before judges. The moot courts represent the outstanding value in spreading knowledge of the particular area of law, but they also help to enhance communication, legal research, getting used to public presentations, arguing, and litigations. And appearing before diverse judges will train the participants to get more confidence in themselves, which is equally important for the success later in the courtroom. Talking about international criminal law, the International Nuremberg Principles Academy and its moot court play exceptionally prominent and important role in disseminating knowledge and understanding of international criminal law. The purpose of the Nuremberg Academy, according to its statute, is in promotion, scholarship, and research, and furthermore, to promote education and, in particular, to implement principles known as Nuremberg Principles, to promote international criminal law, and support the struggle against impunity for the most serious crimes that are of concern to the international community as a whole. And training young professionals has an irreplaceable role in this process. We all can see the importance of international criminal law nowadays. But why? Why a system of criminal justice was necessary at the international level and still is? Martin Luther King said that injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And what he eloquently expressed, there is the idea that we cannot insulate ourselves from injustice and impunity taking within the borders of states other than our own. Unpunished violations of the basic rights of any person threaten all of our rights, no matter where we are. And this is why the international criminal justice system is still necessary in order to achieve justice for all people, wherever they are. And this is why the international community needs young professionals, young practitioners, who have not only knowledge about international law, but who have also the understanding of its practice. Today, the Nuremberg Academy Moot Court 2021 begins. And it is because the Nuremberg Academy promotes the rule of law and principles of international criminal law in a highly professional way. And it is not a coincidence that its moot courts take place in the courtroom 600, either virtually as now or in person. And you can get the exceptionally feeling of history, of trials that took place in this courtroom. It has been the Nuremberg principles trial and later Nuremberg trials and later codified principles which have contributed much to the beginnings of modern international criminal law and justice. When looking in the international criminal law in 2021 and how it may develop in the future, it's always good to remind why this system of law was necessary in the first place. Although the trial of Peter von Hagenbach in 1474 is typically not quoted as the first example of a criminal trial with international element, the inclination to promote accountability for those who are in power was clearly manifested even that time. Several trials with an international element took place after this, although the international criminal justice system officially developed into its modern form in the wake of the two world wars. But only in 1945, the United Nations was created in the aftermath of the Second World War and the signing of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights in 1948 institutionalized basic human rights in a world-recognized document. Only then, following the Second World War, the plans to try those who were responsible for the most serious international crimes were implemented for the first time at the Nuremberg Tribunal. The 20th century witnessed many other atrocities in addition to the two world wars, most notably the crimes committed in Cambodia, the violence during the breakup of the former Yugoslavia, and the Rwandan genocide, to name just a few. In reaction to specific situations in various states, new ad hoc international hybrid or internationalized tribunals were established, such as International Criminal Tribunal for former Yugoslavia, Rwanda, the extraordinary chambers in the Court of Cambodia, the Special Court for Sierra Leone, and the Special Tribunal for Lebanon. And of course, substantial and historical developments of the conduct of armed conflicts regulation through international humanitarian law and the transformation of the relationship between the state and the individual through international human rights law played a significant role. Importantly, international human rights law has allowed the individuals to become a direct subject of international law. In doing so, various human rights treaties have also served to outlaw certain acts under international law, such as genocide in the 1948 Genocide Convention and torture in 1984 Torture Convention. In turn, these treaties help to define these acts as crimes under international criminal law. But would all this have been possible without the Nuremberg trials and Nuremberg principles codified? Would even the International Criminal Court, as a real milestone in international criminal justice, have been established? Maybe not. I consider the incredible ability to impact the development of international criminal law and justice as important as well as the continuing legacy of the Nuremberg principles, no matter how immense they are in general. They allow for not only accountability itself, but also the most serious crimes for all who are responsible without any bias regarding their personal or social status. But most importantly, they brought awareness, the awareness that there should be no impunity for the most serious crimes, and those who are allegedly responsible for them should be tried according to the law. And then the International Nuremberg Principle Academy was established to promote sustainable peace through justice, the Nuremberg principles, and the rule of law by supporting worldwide enforcement of international criminal law, furthering knowledge, and building capacities at the national level to investigate and prosecute these crimes. Ibn Khaldun al-Muqaddimah rightly stated, knowledge is a treasure, but practice is the key to it. And that is one of the reasons why the role of the Nuremberg Academy and its moot courts is much unique, exceptional, and valuable. The Nuremberg Academy, through its projects and measures, such as, for example, moot courts, among others, not only teaches the principles of the international criminal law, disseminates knowledge, brings professionals and practitioners together, but also puts the knowledge into practice. I would like to finish with a question about the future of international criminal law. What is the future of international criminal law? From terrorism to environmental degradation to the devastating humanitarian crisis unfolding around the world, we live in a time when our most pressing problems extend the borders. As a result, the field of international criminal law has to evolve to meet the crisis of our modern era. Although international criminal justice is relatively young and continually developing, the accumulated experience of various international courts allows us to look back and think about how a system is likely to develop in the future and how the next generation, you young professionals, participants of such moot courts, can shape it to fit our world-changing needs. The international criminal justice system undoubtedly needs and will need to address various challenges in order to be of high quality and sustainable for the future. The Nuremberg principles, Nuremberg tribunals laid a foundation for international criminal justice, and now we are looking back. We shall not only continue, but also enforce and continue with sustainability. And therefore, the International Nuremberg Principles Academy plays an irreplaceable role in this process, and the Nuremberg moot courts are incredibly important measures to achieve that. I wish you all the best for the whole month of July and beyond. Enjoy the moot court, a fascinating project of the Nuremberg Academy. Your role in the future of international criminal law is indispensable. You, the young professionals and practitioners, are the future of international criminal law. Thank you very much for your attention, and many grateful thanks to the Nuremberg Academy for the outstanding and remarkable work in the field of international criminal law and international criminal justice.
Thank you so much, President Hrdličková, for your encouraging words for the students and your thoughts about the future of international criminal law, and of course also for your kind words on the importance of our Nuremberg Principles Academy. It's so important for the students to see high-ranking judges as an example for their own careers and convictions. And the organizers like Friedrich-Alexander-Universität and the International Nuremberg Principles Academy are so grateful to you and your colleagues to take some of their precious time for this moot court. And I'm happy to say that we shall see you again in the finals, as you will be sitting on the bench on July 30th as one of the judges for the final rounds of this moot court. Thank you for that also. And for everybody else, this will also be live on the YouTube channel. So we can see you again then on the end of July. Thank you. So for now, I can hand over to Natacha and Philipp, whom I've already mentioned in my introductory remarks as the organizers of this moot court, i.e. those who actually did the work on the ground. And Natacha and Philipp will now introduce to the more technical questions of this competition, the online platform, the competition and the rules. And this part of this opening ceremony with its technical approaches will then be followed by a session of Q&A. So if you have any questions, they will be answered later on. So thank you very much. And thanks again to Philipp and Natacha, whom I can now hand over the further opening ceremony. Thank you very much and best of luck to all of you.
Thank you very much, Professor Safferling, for those kind words. So as Professor Safferling said, I am Natacha Bracq, a senior officer for training and capacity building at the International Nuremberg Principles Academy. And I'm here today with Philipp Gräbke from the Erlangen-Nürnberg University, a co-organizer also. Together, we have put together this first virtual Nuremberg Moot Court. It has been challenging, and we are very happy to see the Moot Court coming into life with you all today and all over for the next 30 days until the 30th of July with the final. So it's a historical moment for us, and it's an historical moment for you too. You will be pleading online, virtually, like most of the judges and the lawyers have been doing up until now. So thank you very much for your patience, your understanding, and your flexibility. And I would also like to, of course, thank all the judges, and I see that some of them are present today, for their contribution and participation in the moot court. Without them, we will not be able to have a real competition, a real virtual hearings. So thank you to all of them and welcome to the Nuremberg Moot Court 2021. So as Professor Safferling said, we have now a lot of teams from all over the world, around a bit more than 190 students competing this in the next 30 days. So this comes with a lot of advantages. You come from all over the world. Teams who could never participate in the Nuremberg Moot Court can now participate because there is no funding involved. And we would like to welcome those teams who for the first time join us for the competition. But of course, as you all know, it also comes with some drawbacks, and I will go through them, and also with Philipp, mainly related to technical difficulties. And we want you to first rest assured that we are completely aware that some of the teams will face technical difficulties. We have tried to accommodate you all as much as possible, and we have made time, and I will go back to it, in the calendar, in the timetable for rescheduled hearings and so on. So please, we completely understand that you may face some technical difficulty. And of course, you are no longer relying solely on your advocacy skills. You are relying on your internet connection, which makes things a bit more stressful for everyone. Before I enter into the technical aspect, I wanted to thank all the teams for for sending us the pictures. Some of you, sorry, have not sent their pictures yet. So I would kindly ask you to send it to us as soon as possible if you want to. It would be nice to have a final slideshow of all the teams competing. So now, normally you have all received a link to join your hearing, the courtroom. My apologies. So we will kindly ask you to click the link you have received, either through the registration, the one you have done, or via email received directly from Zoom, from the coaches, for example, or other observers. And then once you click on the link, you will be asked to write your name. And I can see already that there is some difficulties with the name. I know it's one of the most controversial part of the moot court. We will kindly ask you to follow the instructions set in the team's handbook. And this is, and my colleague will post it in the chat. We ask you to first use team N, then your team number, then your role, so D1, P1, whether or not you're prosecution or defense, D2 if you're the second one, and so on, or coach also if you're a coach, and then your last name. And I will kindly ask you to do it, to start doing now, so it starts also registering, and you make sure that your name is correct. We will, of course, and I understand that it's not easy for everyone, so there's no need to send us email or contact us via WhatsApp regarding this matter. What will happen is the day of your hearing, we will have a practice session 30 minutes before your hearing, and my colleague Philipp will go back to this topic later. And during this practice session, we will work with you with changing your name. The technical host will actually change your name automatically. But in order to avoid spending too much time changing all the names, we would kindly ask you to actually set your name correctly as soon as possible. We, of course, also ask you to join your hearing at the right time. Please keep in mind that the times provided are Central European Summer Time, so Berlin time. So please make sure that you do the time conversion correctly and you join the same day. And the simple reason is that the link is the same for everyone. So you may join a hearing that is not yours. It will create some confusion, and we will have to then send you back, remove you from the waiting room, and so on. So in order to avoid such issues, we will kindly ask you to make sure you join on the right day and time. So now I would also like to remind you that we have provided in the team's handbook sent to your team coordinator useful tips. And I think this is very important that you go through them in details and you check that you follow some of them. For example, do not forget water, make sure your notes are ready so you do not stress during your hearing, or like I did at the beginning, you have some throat issues, that you have water quickly to sort out the issue. So please be careful to follow all the tips. They have been based on general practice. Then one of the last points of today are the technical difficulty. And as I said, we will all face, and it's the same for you, it's the same for the judges, it's the same for the organizers. We are anticipating some technical difficulties, so please do not worry. If that happens, we have created several scenarios. There's the worst case scenario, your team cannot join. I don't know, you have an internet problem in the whole country, in your city or in your home, and the entire team cannot join. This is not a problem. Try to inform us via WhatsApp as soon as possible. I understand that if you have no internet, you might not be able to contact us. This is okay. Just do it when you can do it. What will happen with the team that is present in the courtroom? The presiding judge will proceed ex parte. So the team will plead on its own without an opposing team. There will be no rebuttals, of course. And then the score will be attributed based on the core pleading. For the team who could not join, what will happen is we will get in touch with the team. We have set, and I don't know if you've noticed in the calendar, there is a lot of empty slots, and those empty slots are meant to be filled in with rescheduled hearings. So we will then reschedule a hearing, contact on-call judges, and then make sure you can plead. We will try to accommodate. We have as many time slots as we could provide. So we hope that we won't have more rescheduled hearing than we have time slots. So try to always join and make your best to join the hearing in order to provide the opportunity for some teams who could not really join to be rescheduled. Another option is that one of your team member cannot join. So what happens? Your team is here. You have, for example, you're supposed to be three prosecutors, only 2 could join. And then we are also flexible. You can choose to either distribute the new time between the 2 prosecutors or ask one of your colleagues who was supposed to plead for the defense to step in. And of course, this person will plead twice, but this is fine. It's exceptionally accepted as exception to the rules. So please do not worry, just let us know as possible so we can make the necessary arrangement with the bench clerk, and the bench clerk is aware. And finally, the one which is, I think, the least nice is the technical difficulties that prevent you from speaking, but you can still be present, and you will have some cuts. Your microphone doesn't work properly, and so on. So in this case, we have tried to accommodate as much as possible, but there is so much we can do, unfortunately. And in that case, we can only grant you a 5-minute extension at the end of your pleading maximum. So even if the technical difficulties lasted, let's say 6 minutes, we will only be able to grant 5 minutes per team. And of course, if the judge cannot hear you, didn't understand, then we reschedule. But if there is a possibility, of course, to understand and for you to proceed and be able to compete with the other team and do the rebuttals, we would prefer this situation. 2 last points now regarding the chat. So as you have been made aware, the chat will be open, but the chat is only meant for you to communicate directly with the organizers, the bench clerk, and the judges in exceptional cases, in case of technical difficulties. The chat should in any case should not be used for networking reasons, and I will go back to it in a few seconds. We have organized side events for you to be able to network between you, with the judges, and so on. So please do not use the chat for other reasons than technical ones. And then the last issue is one of the 2 last issues are the live stream and the recording. Every hearing is recorded, and the last hearings, so from the last 16, will be live streamed on YouTube, like this opening ceremony. So your families, friends, professors, anyone will be able to watch you if you make it to the last 16. Unfortunately, the preliminary rounds are all held in closed hearings for the simple reason that we don't want to give an unfair advantages to the team who plead later on the competition to be able to see other teams pleading. So this is the reason why they all closed at the beginning. And finally, the side events. My colleague Philipp will go into detail regarding the topics. I just wanted to give you some information regarding the technical parts. So you have received the links. It's the same link as this opening ceremony. So you can click on the same link and use the same password. And so the discussion, you will have a discussion with the judges. And we have asked you if you want to send us questions in advance. If you wish that the judge or the speaker address a question, a specific issue ahead of the side event, please send it to us via the form provided on the side event timetable, and then we will make sure that the questions are addressed. You are also, of course, more than welcome to ask questions during the side event with your camera on and your microphone muted. This is, of course, the objective is to engage in a discussion. If you're shy, or you would like the topic to be addressed beforehand, feel free to send us the questions. So I am done with the technical parts. I thank you all again for your participation, and I will now hand over to Philipp Gräbke before the Q&A. He will introduce the competition in itself and the main rules. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Natacha. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Our competition has now, with this opening ceremony, officially begun. The first hearings will commence tomorrow morning. That is tomorrow morning, Berlin time. As Natacha has said, all times that you find in the team's handbook, in the timetable and everywhere else are always Central European summer time. So please make sure that is UTC plus 2 hours. Please make sure that you do the calculations right and join us at the right time, depending on where you are based. We have tried to arrange for all hearings to happen at times that are as convenient as possible to you, the team members, and of course to the judges. Especially in the later rounds, it will not always be possible to accommodate you in that way. So our apologies for that in advance. Apart from those hearings that will start tomorrow, and we will have hearings every weekday until the 30th when our finals are set. Apart from those hearings, we have several side events which already have been mentioned, where we want to provide you with the opportunity to network and socialize, and also, of course, to get in touch with our experts who will also serve as judges here in way of discussions. You can ask questions, as Natacha has already mentioned. We would strongly encourage you to make use of that. We feel it is a great opportunity for you to get in touch with like really leading experts in the field. I will go into more detail later on. But first of all, I'd like to talk about the hearings. As Natacha has already mentioned, please join the hearing 30 minutes prior to its start. This is very important because we need to do sort of a technical practice session with you. We'd like to check that everything is working, camera, microphone, that the background is working, that there is no other issues. And it is important that you join on time, because in fact we only have 15 minutes for this practice session. The practice session needs to be done 15 minutes prior to the hearing, because we will have another practice session then with the judges. So this also now goes out to all the judges who are present here. Your practice session, as has been communicated to you, will indeed start 15 minutes prior to the hearing. The team members' practice session will start 30 minutes to the hearing. We will also then see that everybody's Zoom name is correct. We can change those names during the practice session. So as Natacha has said, if you have trouble setting your Zoom name up as per the instructions in the handbook, don't worry, we'll fix it then. After your practice session, our bench clerk will remove you from the courtroom back into the waiting room. When the hearing starts, you will be moved back from the waiting room into the courtroom. When everything is ready, the members of the bench will leave their deliberation room and enter the courtroom, upon which the hearing will commence. During that hearing, time management is yours to do. Each team has 25 minutes for their pleading, and 5 minutes rebuttal after the other team has pled. It is your job to manage your time. Our bench clerk will indicate, however, when there's 10 minutes left, 5 minutes left, 1 minute left, and when the time's up. They will indicate that by just posting it in the chat. So if you want to rely on this, please make sure that your chat is open and you can read it so that you don't miss that message. However, apart from that, time management, especially also amongst your team members, if 2 or 3 of you plead for one party, that has to be done by you on your own. When you enter the courtroom, your microphone will be automatically muted. Please leave it that way and only unmute after the presiding judge has given you the floor. The hearings will be organized in the following manner. The bench clerk will introduce, will start the hearing, will say the International Criminal Court is now in session. From there, the president of the bench will take over and will introduce themselves and the bench, and will then ask you, the team members, to introduce themselves and allocate the speaking time. So that means one of your team will then have to let the bench know how your team wishes to distribute the available 25 minutes, which team members will speak. The other team will do the same, and then the president will give the first speaker, that is the first speaker of the prosecution, the floor. Again, there's 25 minutes, then there's 25 minutes for the pleading of the defense. Afterwards, there's 5 minutes of rebuttals each. And then the bench will retire into the deliberation room to deliberate their judgment. You can, at this point, either stay in the courtroom, you could talk to the other team, or however, you are also free to ask us, that is our bench clerk, to be moved into sort of a private breakout room just for your team. We have created one for the prosecution, one for the defense. So if you'd like to talk in private, then just let us know. That can be arranged. Yes, after the bench is done deliberating, everybody will be moved back into the courtroom, and the judges will announce which team won, and the judges will provide you with feedback, which we believe you will appreciate. The judges will, apart from this feedback, only announce which team won. In paragraph 18 of our rules, you can see that there is a rather detailed scoring regime. So your performance will be scored. However, that only happens for internal purposes, because that score is needed to decide which teams will advance into the final rounds. You will not be told the exact details of the score. You will only be told which team won. The winning is part of the scoring, but it is only one of the elements. You will also not be told another measure, that is who the best speaker and the second best speakers were. However, judges also decide after every hearing about the best and second best speaker of the hearing, and in the end of the competition, those two, the best and second best speaker of the whole competition, will be given an extra award for that. One other thing that I'd like you to note is that judges, of course, always have the option to interrupt you and ask you questions. That the time you need to answer those questions is simply part of your 25 minutes. So if you are asked questions, if you are even asked questions repeatedly, you have to, as speakers, distribute the remaining time you have. You will not be allotted extra time for that. The only case in which you might be allotted extra time is if there is technical difficulties, technical issues that are major technical issues that basically lead to an interruption of the hearing. In that case, the bench may decide that one or both teams get up to 5 minutes, not more, but up to 5 minutes of extra time to account for these issues. If it is only a minor issue occurring, they will most probably not do that. However, again, if there's like a real interruption of the hearing, the presiding judge might announce that one team gets a number of minutes, a maximum of 5 minutes extra time, which will then also be taken into account by the bench clerk when they post the remaining minutes in the Zoom chat. We can only make it possible to allow for the teams to get those maximum of 5 minutes, because our schedule, as you can see when you look at the timetable, is rather tight. There's always a next hearing to start soon. So if there is technical issues that cannot be resolved within those up to 5 minutes, we will have to revert to what Natacha already has described, what the rules provide for in terms of ex parte hearings and so on. All right, so much for the hearings. The other important part of the moot court is our side events, about which I'd like to talk now for a few minutes. We have scheduled side events throughout the competition, which we feel should be sort of a replacement of what you would usually have if everybody came here and met up here in Nuremberg. Then, you know, after the hearings and after the opening ceremony, maybe everybody would together walk over to some beer garden and exchange their contacts and stay in touch. So since this is sadly not possible in the same way in this virtual event, we'd like for these side events to offer sort of a replacement space for that. At the same time, as I've already said, we'd like to offer you to get in touch with our experts who serve as judges. So we have created the side event timetable in a way that we have tried to sort of cover different topics. I'm going to talk about them now. The first one will be a virtual tour of Courtroom 600, which will already happen on the 7th of July at 12:30, same time as the opening ceremony. It will be hosted by Dr. Emanuel Baumann and by Axel Fischer, who work for the Memorium Nuremberg trials, which is sort of a museum that is actually located here in the Palace of Justice in Nuremberg, above Courtroom 600. Courtroom 600, of course, is what you see here in my background, the courtroom where the Nuremberg trials of the major war criminals was held, and several of the subsequent Nuremberg trials, and of course the room where usually the Nuremberg Moot Court would be held. So Dr. Baumann and Mr. Fischer will talk about the courtroom itself, about its history, and of course about the Nuremberg war crimes trials. We would be very happy to welcome you there, and they will of course be available for a Q&A afterwards, as everybody is. The tour, of course, will be held virtually, and this is sort of the special moment of this side event. There will be the tour first, and then the discussion will commence. With all other side events, they will be more discussion style right from the beginning. The first of those will be held 2 days later on the 9th of July, again 12:30 Berlin time. Christopher Gosnell, who is currently a senior legal officer with UNITAT. This is the United Nations ISIL investigations unit, but who was before a defense attorney who has worked in various international tribunals, will talk about courtroom advocacy skills. Again, every event, like from now on, will be held discussion style. So Natacha has already mentioned, you can already now, if you want speakers to speak about certain topics, already now post questions online in an online form that if you find the link to in the Teams handbook. You can, of course, also just join the discussion and then ask your question live on Zoom. We will moderate the discussion, but the speakers will be happy to answer all the questions that you individually might have. So this again will be on courtroom advocacy skills. The practical things you as young professionals can improve on when you are about to start your careers as international lawyers. The next event will be on 14th of July, 12:30 again. Our guest will be Mary O'Leary, who is the president of the Association of Defense Counsel Practicing Before International Courts and Tribunals. She will talk about the rights of the accused in international criminal law and in international criminal tribunals. As you know, of course, a cornerstone of every fair trial under the rule of law. So we are very happy to have her and her expertise talking to you again from the perspective of the defense. That perspective will then change for the next event on the 16th of July, 2 days later, again 12:30 Berlin time, when Ines Petersen will be our guest. She is currently with the German Federal Public Prosecutor General, that is the German Attorney General. She was before an associate legal officer with the ICTR, the Rwanda Tribunal. She will talk about the domestic prosecution of core international crimes, which under German criminal law is done by the Federal Public Prosecutor General. So she is an expert on that, and we are very happy to have her, and she'll be happy to answer all your questions. And our last side event will be held by Stefan Vespi, who is currently a judge of inquiry with the Special Court for the Central African Republic. I think it's called the Special Criminal Court for the Central African Republic. He has before been a trial attorney at the ICTY and worked for the Swiss Federal Public Prosecutor. He will be talking about how to build a case strategy. First of all, of course, also about what a case strategy is, in which ways it is important to have one and how to build one for an international criminal trial. Again, we are very happy to have him on the 21st of July at 12:30 Berlin time. We are looking forward to all of these side events. We'll be very happy to welcome you all there. We'll be happy for our speakers to answer your questions. And of course, if all these side events will be live streamed again on our YouTube channel. So if you have friends, relatives, whoever you'd like to introduce to some topic or who you know might be interested, share the link to the YouTube channel with them so they can watch. Yeah. Lastly, we will, of course, have a closing ceremony, which will happen on the 30th of July at 12 o'clock Berlin time, this time not 12:30, but 12 sharp. That is a few hours after the finals will be concluded. We will give out the awards for the winning teams, for the best and second best speaker, for the best written memoranda. You all know that you have already put in extensive work in the written phase of the moot court. So I'm sure nobody will want to miss out on that. Our closing ceremony, which will also be our award ceremony. So that it is for my overview of the competition. We now have the option of you asking questions right now. If there's any questions, let us know. We'll be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Philipp. So yes, for those who wish to ask a question, we just kindly ask you to unmute and turn on your camera so we can see you. It would be much better for everyone. So please feel free to ask any questions regarding the technical aspect of the competition, the more substantive parts. We're here for that, so it's the time for you.
Good afternoon. Indeed, I do have a question. So first of all, greetings to Nuremberg. And sorry, I'm currently outside, so I would like to avoid putting on the camera. Mr. Gräbke mentioned for 2 or 3 times that there are 5 minutes for rebuttal. And the question I have is whether the rules, according to my knowledge, originally granted up to 5 minutes. So it's still possible to only reserve 2, 3, 4 minutes, or does every team side have to use those 5 minutes?
Thank you very much. If I may, I'll answer. So of course, it's up to 5 minutes. It depends also if you have issues to raise. As it says in the rules, the rebuttals is used to answer issues raised by the opposite side and to give you a chance to answer. If you have nothing to say, you can either choose not to use the 5 minutes, or you can raise a few issues. So it's up to 5 minutes indeed.
Thank you very much.
And judges will always appreciate when you are concise and down to the point and not verbose. So.
Is there another question?
Greetings to the organizers. We just wished to ask that if first there would be any exchange of the written memorandums between the 2 teams, and if there would be, then when will it take place? And secondly, we wish to ask that whether in the prelims, the total scores of the team would be the first thing that would be taken into consideration to get promoted to the next knockout rounds, or whether first the win and loss thing would be taken into consideration. Thank you.
Philipp, do you want to answer this question?
I had some audio issue. I'm not sure whether I got the question right.
I can answer if you want. Yeah. It just for the written memorandum, no, they're not used at this stage of the competition. Neither the judge or the competing teams will have access to the written memorandum. So they as soon as you submitted them and they were graded, they will no longer be used, except if there is a tie between teams. And this is the only time during the competition that we will use the written memorandum. So, and historically, we have very rarely used them. For your second question, so the rules have changed. I don't know if you have participated in previous years. This year, we are trying a different type of rule. So the winning team will gain 3 bonus points. So it's part of the score. So you'll be scored on 4 different criteria, which are all 5 points. And then the winning team will get 3 additional points. Did I answer your question correctly?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. No, ma'am. For the second question, I just wish to know that can it also happen that there is a particular team which might have won both their rounds, but still they won't qualify to top 16. However, there can be a particular team that would have lost both their rounds and still might qualify to the next round. Is it a possibility?
Yes, indeed. It depends on your score. So if you get a very high score, you will qualify. So the advancing to the last 16 round is only based on your score. You will get, as I said, 3 additional points. So this is the added value of winning because you get a higher score. So you can get up to 6 additional points if you win. So but it's if your score is low or other teams have a higher score, you might not advance. The only time where winning or losing matters is in the final rounds, as Philipp explained. Only the winning team then progress until the finals.
Thank you.
Is there another question? Okay, perfect. Then I just have one final point that I would like to highlight regard. Yes, of course.
Oh, so I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No.
I have 2 questions. I would like to know if my colleagues will be present during, for example, if I am the prosecution, the defense would be present during my pleading. And the question number 2, I didn't understand where should I access the link for the pleadings and the oral rounds?
Well, so for your first question, yes, they will be present. All team members are invited to join the hearing. However, those team members who are not going to plead in this hearing, so in your example, you are pleading for the prosecution, you have team colleagues who will be pleading for the defense later on, they will be asked to have their camera off. We will also, again, go through all of that in the practice session that has been mentioned 30 minutes prior to the hearing. So those team members will basically be in the public gallery, while you, the team members pleading, will be sort of in the courtroom right in front of the bench. But the whole team will be there and will be able to view the proceedings. And for the first question, the link, you should have been provided the link through the team's handbook. It is the same link for all of your hearings.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
And this is actually a good transition to the point I wanted to make in terms of the Zoom view, which is detailed in the team's handbook, but I haven't gone through it. So I think just to give you this information. So as you probably already know, you have 2 ways of setting up your Zoom view. At the top right, I will team end 112. I'll give you the floor after I'm done. At the top right, you can select view, or in another language, the equivalent of view, and then you can select speaker or gallery view. So if you want to see the person, only the person speaking, we invite you to select speaker view. In your case, it might be better, I don't know, it's a personal choice, to see everyone, including the opposing side. and then you can select gallery view. But in the gallery view, you will also, as Philipp explained, have a lot of people with their camera off as we have today, and it's not very nice looking. So you have a way of hiding any person who doesn't show their video, and in that case, you will only be able to see the bench clerk, the judges, the prosecution, and then the defense, and that's it. All the non-video participants will be hidden. And in order to do so, you just simply need to click right on any person who has their camera off, and then select hide non-video participant. This is also described in the Teams handbook. We strongly advise you do this before you pleading. So you have a nicer experience when pleading. So thank you. And I think now we have N112 who wanted to speak. Do you still want to ask a question?
Sorry. Am I audible to you?
Yes, we can hear you.
So my question is that as we have cameras of the rest of the two members off, and like the two members who are presenting the case, like it is from the defense side, the members from the prosecution side cannot speak. And do we need to introduce those members too when it comes to the turn of our team?
So you only introduce, so the appearances are only for the team members pleading. So you only introduce the team pleading. The defense idea, like Philipp said, imagine that those people who do not plead, who have the camera off, are in the public gallery. So you imagine them. So only the people with the camera on who are pleading. So in your case, the prosecution, let's say, will only introduce the prosecution team.
Thank you.
This is a very good question indeed.
Excuse me, I would like to ask another question. Of course, in the rebuttal, we cannot raise new issues, but can the defense address issues that have been addressed by the prosecution in their rebuttal?
Yes, yes, you can. Yes, of course. You can. Then it's the capacity for you to improvise. But of course, if the prosecution says something outraging or completely wrong in their rebuttals, you are more you have a right to answer also and to correct, of course, there.
Thank you.
I have a question. Is it possible if a team has not been able to go ahead and finish the 25 minutes in the main submissions, but then decides to proceed and let's say, for example, it does 22 minutes. Can the remaining 3 minutes be added to the rebuttals time? Is that possible?
Philipp, do you want to answer?
I do not think so. The rebuttal is limited to up to 5 minutes, and it is meant for you to react. No, you cannot, if you don't make use of your 25 minutes, you cannot use those remaining minutes later.
Yeah, and I received also a direct message just to answer the person also. Yes, it's 25 minutes main pleading. There is no way you can extend your main pleading for the rebuttals. The rebuttals are only used to do rebuttals, to rebut part of the prosecution or defense arguments. So really be mindful, because the judges will not let this pass. And I have another question also I received for the chat box. Yes, you can. I've been asked if the team members can communicate between each other using the chat box. Of course, you can do this. Just, it's only, as you know, on Zoom, it's only individual. It means that you have to contact your team individually. So maybe a WhatsApp group will be a bit more ideal in your case, or an equivalent that would allow you to have a group talk. But of course, please feel free to use it to highlight any issues to your team members. Team N125.
Hi, good afternoon to everyone. I wanted to know if it's possible for you to share with us a virtual background for the pleadings, or is that not possible? Thanks.
We have only had virtual backgrounds for the judges and the bench clerk. we actually let's think about it. We could share it with you, but the issue is now, because it's also last minute, not everyone will be using it. So in order for everyone to be in the same same situation, we will discuss with Philipp to see if it's something we could do, because yeah, it's a good idea also. So we'll let you know. But if you don't hear from us, it means we haven't decided in the few hours. Otherwise, you'll receive it. And I have another question just before I received also via the chat. So the question is, how do you proceed to the next round? So to proceed to let's say the preliminary rounds, you have your team pleading for the defense and then your team pleading for the prosecution. Both teams will be scored. This score will be added. You will have an overall score of your entire team. And this is the score that will then decide whether or not you will move to the next round for the preliminary round. So then after you're all done competing, we'll have all the scores, and the first 16 team who have the best score will be added. And then, of course, as I said, and Philipp said, in the next round, only the winning team advance, so there is no score. And for the rebuttal, anyone can give rebuttal. There is no limitation. So if, for example, you have two members of the prosecution pleading, and you have one of the member of the defense who wants to do the rebuttal, the person can step in, but this person shall have their camera and microphone on during the entire hearing and be introduced also at the beginning of the hearing as the person doing the rebuttal. So this is totally possible. It's just historically, most teams choose to have the main pleader, a person pleading as the person doing the rebuttals, because they're more familiar with the arguments. But it's up to you. You organize it the way you want. I think we had a hand raised. I don't know if there is another question. I have another question. So all team pleading, I've been asked if all team members shall have the camera on. Yes, it's like a normal, in a real courtroom. Everyone is visible. Everyone should be visible, even if they are not pleading. So we ask you to turn on your camera. You can be in the same room as the other person. So then we should be able to see you on screen. So think as if we are in a real hearing. You should all be visible. And the last question also, but please ask questions verbally. It's nice also to meet you and to hear your voice. For the sides. So I've been asked, when you move to the last 16 and all the following rounds, how do we decide which side you are pleading? For the last 16, we will do a lot. So we have a box already ready, and we will just select. So we will be done randomly. Then for the other ones, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals, what we will do, and we'll try to, because in the previous years, the problem was some people, we kept on doing the lots. And the same person, the same side, so let's say for team N55, the prosecution kept on being picked up, and then we had just the prosecution pleading until the end. So we're trying to avoid this. So what we will do is we will look at which role pled in the last 16. So let's say it was the prosecution, then you advance to the quarterfinals, then we will choose the defense. So the defense will plead alternatively. But if it's the scheme, also the same case for the team you're pleading against. So let's say the N56 also advances, and then they were also playing prosecution, and then of course naturally they should have been defense. Then we will have to draw lots, because you cannot both plead on behalf of the defense. So this is just basically will be based on your last pleading, and we will advertise it, as we said, as soon as possible on our website, and you will also receive a notification on Facebook that the timetables have been prepared. We have another question from Tin N112.
My question is that you said that if it is possible that if the two persons are from the prosecution and the rebuttal is doing the person from the defense side from the same team, like if there are two persons from the prosecution, is it possible that that a member from the defense side can do the rebuttals for that round. Third person from the team.
I'm not sure I understood, Philipp. Do you want to understand? Do you want to answer? Sorry.
Yeah, I also had audio issues, but if it is about the rebuttal, then yes, you have team members A and B pleading for the prosecution. It is okay under the rules to have team member C do the rebuttal.
So is it necessary to inform the organizers in the beginning, or during the meetings we can inform that that C person is going to do the rebuttal?
You have to introduce this person to the bench, basically as if they were a member of the prosecution. So then you would introduce, Your Honor, this is my name, this is my colleague, and then our colleague here who will do the rebuttal.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I have one last question regarding the number of people who can do the rebuttal. I mean, it can be as many as you want. Just remember that you only have 5 minutes, so it's really, really short. And usually it's also improvised because you have to respond to the prosecution's argument. So I would advise 2 persons maximum, but it's really, really up to you to decide. But you can have more than one, of course. And the other question relates to the judge. Will you know the judges who are on your bench? No, you will not, only for the finals. So the finals bench will be released very soon. Unfortunately, no, for the other rounds, you will discover it. It's just for the purpose of impartiality and fairness. So yes, and I also, if you notice that you know one of the judges, please mention it to the bench directly. They will take the necessary measures to you know them personally, sorry, to then, because of course you cannot plead against a person you know, so then in front of someone you know. So please just let the bench know, and they will take the necessary measures. Sorry, I have another question. So since maybe Philipp, I don't know if since the team members that are doing the same pleading can be in the same room, is it mandatory that both of us appear on the same screen, or can we use our own computers?
No, you can do that however you'd like. Whatever works best for you, you are free to choose. There was another hand raised by team N35, I believe. Yes.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure whether it is possible to plead in the order of N1, N2, and then N1 again. So is it possible for the first person to take the floor again after the second person?
Yes, that is possible. If you allocate the time in that way and announce it to the bench when the hearing commences, then you can do that, sure.
Okay, thank you.
And another question I received in the chat, it's about, so the next rounds, are the roles already defined? And yes, the roles you have, you used during the preliminary rounds will remain the same during the last 16 and so on. So if you were a prosecution, you will remain the prosecution up until the end. And I have a question, maybe 135, I'm not sure I understand. Can the participant change the order of the issues? I am not sure if you could clarify your question. What do you mean by which issues? So maybe I'll just maybe improvise a little bit. If you mean compared to your written memorandum, if you want to reorganize your arguments, you are more than welcome. If you think that one argument is stronger than another, to switch them. It's actually, this is also what will be addressed during, I assume, the courtroom advocacy skills side event. You do not have to follow the agenda exactly the same way you did it in the written memo. Of course, you have to follow it logically because jurisdiction and admissibility have to go after one after the other, but you can switch the arguments. And of course, also you do not have to mention all the arguments you had in your bench memo. You can select them. So this is also an option. You only have 25 minutes and we know you have a lot to cover. So please feel free to cover the most relevant issues. So yeah, thank you for the clarification. I think I answered your question. Maybe if you could also send it in the for the chat to everyone, so everyone can see, and also Philipp can see the questions. It would be easier because so I can also try to answer the questions as we go. So one of the question is if, for example, all the members of the prosecuting team are in the same location, should the team participate from 3 separate devices, or is it enough that all members log in from one device?
Again, you are free to choose whatever works best for you. You have to all be present, and also your team coach is not allowed to be in the same room with you. The rules state that. Otherwise, if you are sharing one room, you can share one device. You have to make sure in that case that you are all visible in front of the camera. But indeed, if you have an arrangement that works well for you and where the bench can see you as a team, 2 or 3 people sat next to each other, feel free to do that. And then I see there is a hand raised by team 135.
Good afternoon. We just have a question according previously mentioned the issue. Can we rearrange the issues? Like, for example, can we state like jurisdiction and criminal responsibility together by one team member, and the other team member will plead admissibility and the interest of justice?
Yes, I think you can choose this. I cannot give you more information because then it's about your case strategy. So, but in terms of time repartition and speaking time, you can give it the way you want. You can even choose to divide it by 3, 4, 5 parts and have as many parts covered by different speakers. So one after the other or entirely. So this is really up to you. We don't have restrictions in terms of speaking time. One of the question is about the criteria. So the judges during the preliminary rounds will assess you based on 4 main criteria. The first one is knowledge and understanding of the facts and legal issues of the case. The second one is the use and understanding of the law and international jurisprudence. Then the reasoning, and then presentation. So those are the scores. And one last issue that was raised is, so yeah, you have registered, I know, as P1, P2, D1, D2. And it's possible that in the course of the preparation of your hearing, you choose that the D2 will in reality be D1. It doesn't matter. So we just keep your name as they are, because we have a present sheet that allows us to identify you when you enter the courtroom, and also to identify you in terms of the scores and so on. So keep your names, but feel free to change the order of appearance. This is more than fine. Is there any other questions? Okay. No, okay. So then I will wish you an excellent preparation. Good luck for tomorrow's start. And as we said, we are always available to answer your questions via WhatsApp or email. So please feel free. Just bear in mind that we will also be very busy. So our response time might be a bit slower than it was during the preparation time, but we'll try to answer as fast as possible. Thank you very much, everyone. And thank you to all the judges also for joining us today.
Thank you very much.